There we go. All right, the edge of venture. Actually, I really appreciate this graphic that RVC put together. It really kind of shows what it's like to raise capital for physical product companies. It didn't quite depict the picture. It looks a little bit more like that. That's not quite right. It's a little bit more like that. I know that guy. That guy's me. It's really hard to raise capital as a physical product company, and it's weird because I'm a software guy. My background is in software development. I've founded 5 other software companies, all of them with really great exits. I've generated 150 or $9 billion in product value, $150 million in direct revenue, and I decided to sell cheap plastic as my next venture. There's some reasons I want to talk about that a little bit, but I also wanted to talk about my experience of raising capital. But first, I want to have a little audience participation, and I hate when I sit there. I hate when somebody says that. So it's not that you're not gonna have to do jumping jacks or anything. I promise. All right. So I want you in your head as I'm going through this startup. I want you to value this startup, and I'm gonna just ask you guys to call out when I'm done what you think this startup is worth. It's a collaboration app. It sells to business, education, government customers. So broad customer base. $80 per user price tag. Average initial order is 64 installs, $5,000 is their initial average order. They have a 40% reorder rate. $300K in their first 6 months in revenue with $1 million sales pipeline. Distribution agreement with a $14 billion reseller. 90% gross margin. Strong founder who's put almost $1 million of capital in this business themselves. Great leadership team, no debt, and very defensible intellectual property. You guys probably see a lot of pitches. What's this company worth? If you were to invest, gut it. $7 million. Anybody else want to take a stab? Yeah. $100 million. It sounds like kind of an exciting company. I'm going to change one thing on this slide. It's a dry erase board company. What does that do to your perception of the value of the company? Right. Why? Why? So scale is the factor for you. Okay. So incumbent and scalability. Is that it? It's not that's the biggest reason. It's not sexy. Who wants to invest in a whiteboard company? Yeah. I'll get to that. It's a good question. I would challenge any software company that says they have defensible intellectual property. It's way harder to defend software than it is hardware. All right, so software companies are this is the realization I came to a couple of years ago, and I can't read my notes, so I'm going to have to kind of look back at the slide. Differentiation today in software is a lot more complicated. It requires a lot more capital for sales, marketing, and service. Competition is fierce in software, as evidenced by the number of investments that are being made compared to hardware companies. If it's a decent idea, there's another startup on one of the coasts that has more capital and better industry connections. And if it's a viable business, there's a 99% chance that you're competing with somebody that has really deep pockets. Reasons why a physical product company can be less risk or a better bet. Bigger perceived barrier to entry, smaller competitive landscape. You can pre-sell your product on crowdfunding. It's easier to protect with patents. Patent examiners with design patents can pick it up and go, yeah, this infringes. And it's way easier to protect, it's way easier for a patent examiner to identify patent infringement with physical products than it is with software products. Way easier. And also easier to do patent research. Physical products, you hand something to somebody, they're easier to sell. No consumer expectation of free. Nobody asks me for, well, I can't say that. Most people don't ask me for free squares. Yeah, you got a free one. And our distribution model is actually way more mature than software company distribution models. Way more mature. So you're right, it doesn't scale infinitely instantly, but I have way more channels to sell through that understand how to buy from me. And that's another thing, my distributors typically aren't potential competitors. So in a software industry, if you make a feature that adds some value to an SAP installation, SAP will either probably resell you for a while they're building you out of business. Office Depot doesn't do that. All right. Checklist that you should have if you're looking at it at software companies or product-based companies. You need to have sales and marketing leadership as part of the founding team. One of the founders, you can't have somebody that's looking for a product guy. There has to be a product guy in the team already. Clear product roadmap with a really strong MVP. A very typical problem that I see with physical product companies is they want the thing to do everything when they launch it. And that's usually that you can do that in software because you can iterate on a product and release it in iterations, and you can release it with bugs. You can't do that with hardware. If there's a bug, you retool and remanufacture. It's really expensive. At a minimum, working prototypes that are manufacturable. Distribution strategy, bonus points for inked deals in place. Strong manufacturing partner or a founding member that has supply chain experience, and patents filed and reviewed by the due diligence team. How you can help as an investor, offer to lead. No, seriously, offer to lead. One way to offer to lead to make it easier on you, a lot of investors are scared to lead. Have the founder do most of the due diligence homework for you, have them prepare the documentation, and then just validate it. That's what I had to do. I did most of my due diligence myself, and then my lead investor came back in and made sure I wasn't full of shit. Lean in and help build their story. It's really hard to build a hardware story. Be honest and direct. A lot of people have told me just what they think I want to hear as an investor. You're not doing us any good as founders to hear that. Do not contribute to whiplash. So I have, MC Squares has a digital version filed for in patent. We can turn MC Squares digital. Half the investors I talked to say you have to go to digital now. The other half said you can't go to digital for a long time. And founders get advice like that on everything they do. It's completely confusing. And I've seen founders crumble under the weight of, well, why are you raising it? I've asked the founder, why are you raising it at that much money? Well, one of my mentors told me to raise it at that valuation. That's not a reason to do it. And bluntly, investors, mentors do that to founders all the time. They think they know their business at a deep level. Offer the wisdom that you have from the experience that you have and let them make the decisions for their business. Get to a soft yes or no. This is extremely important. Don't string these guys along if you're not interested. Again, going back to being honest. And introduce them to me. I've been through a lot when growing physical products. I mentor physical product companies. We have a prototype lab now set up for Comsero that we'll run prototypes for, and I love to help these guys. I've been there. So introduce them to me, and I'll help them too. And that's me. I'd love to take questions, and if not, I'll sit down and have some more beer. Yeah, I was worried about this. No hands. Yeah. It's not this big. I should have brought, why did I bring one? What a terrible founder. God. My VP of sales is here too, and we both forgot it. MC squares, I'm going to give you my ABC statement. MC squares are handheld whiteboards that snap together on a wall to create larger collaborative whiteboards. They're used in schools. Teachers will hand MC squares out to students, get them to contribute and think individually, fully knowing that whatever they do has to go back up on a wall. Same thing with project managers. Have you ever had an introvert running a meeting and trying to get them to contribute? It's impossible. MC squares enable that. We're seeing in schools a 340% lift in passing grades for classrooms that use MC squares. It's not a toy. It's a serious learning tool. Yeah, Krista. I don't deal in terms of fair. Can you ask me? Fair it is. Well, I put a lot of money into this company myself because I think it's a great I think it's a business that has potential of a lot of growth. Now, I could potentially be a fool for that, but I'm putting my money behind the fact that I think physical products are a better investment of my dollars and my time than into a software company, which it's impossible to know if the company you're investing in, how many other startups there are out there doing nearly the exact same thing, going after the exact same dollars. It's impossible to know. It's really easy to know in a physical product world. That you're likely building something that nobody else has. Yeah. HR, yeah, we talked about this. Just, yeah. So I'm the only one that. Problem is I'm not raising anymore. I closed my round, so yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Do I believe I'm undervalued or software companies are overvalued? Yes. No more questions? Oh, yeah. Well, the software company, it doesn't exist. It's vapor. That was an analogy to my company. My company just closed a round. It took me. Let's talk about my round. It took me over a year to effectively raise $300K at a $4.5 million pre-money valuation. It was a pain in the ass and very complicated and very different. Now, I've never raised capital before either, so that was part of the problem. Ignorant founder is always a big problem. Yeah. So what I've learned in raising capital, and this is what I tell a lot of founders, what happens if you don't? What do you do? And almost invariably the answer is, well, we keep going. And then I say, then operate as if you're never going to raise capital. I'm not sure if I would go back and raise capital again at this company stage. So the reason why I raised capital this time, a couple of reasons. One, the cash infusion helped, and it de-risked the business a little bit for me. But more importantly, I believe we're going to need to go raise a Series A round. And having no experience raising any money, I needed to get some experience with with the much more sophisticated and easier to deal with angels. Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty broad patent that covers the current, well, I have 3 filed utilities and 1 issued design patent. All of them are fairly broad that cover both the current iteration and future iterations of the product. Yeah, not my, so probably right now modify and improve upon the patents that I have. We have enough products in the pipeline to keep us busy for a while, so probably not, unless we come up with something really cool, probably not going to pursue new product lines to patent quite yet.
So you gave some suggestions why you look for capital, but are there any generalizations that can be made for the physical product space on what a founder should or should not seek investment?
God, I hate speaking in generalities. Like, it just depends on the founder's financial situation, the type of capital that's. The problem with product-based businesses, physical product-based businesses, is the more complex the product is, the more capital you need to raise, and the more risky it is, and the less likely you are to get angel funding. So it just depends on whether or not is it truly a innovative hardware product, or is it a sales and marketing play where they really need the capital for sales and marketing, and the product is kind of baked in. Just depends. Yeah. Yeah. Sell squares. Sell squares. I'm just here to support my fellow founders. And from this room, if you could help me sell squares or evangelize the product, let's talk. Yeah. Yeah. Stopping, picking the horse to run. So I didn't follow my own advice on MVP. I wasn't willing to sacrifice on features. I put enough capital in the business to make sure I could do that. Because it's a weird market, right? Dry erase boards. Like, who would ever think about some idiot came up with a tile dry erase system? So it was probably saying this is good enough. And then you get into manufacturers, and the other biggest mistake I made was I ordered too many up front. And there was some manufacturing defects in it, and the inventory has been a little bit like not having the capital to do other things because I spent so much on inventory. So, that's about having a good manufacturing partner, and it's a really expensive lesson, and I'm glad I learned it because I won't do it next time. No, I just had in my head how it needed to work. And Max and we have literally 350 variations of the prototype before we went to production. Probably too many. But I was learning, right? I've developed hundreds, thousands of software products. I've never developed a physical one. So, the first 100 prototypes that I built were totally not manufacturable. I got laughed out of injection molders saying you can't make that, but you can 3D print it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can't injection mold it. So, just the learning curve that I had was, and again, that's why I put some capital in, because I wanted to learn the space well. One more? Gotta be Andrew. Yeah, so the definite route to go is finding a contract manufacturer that you can trust, and I can point you in the right direction if you need to. I don't want to evangelize any particular group here. Learn, if you're a product designer, you have to learn CAD. I chose SolidWorks as typically the industry standard. Autodesk is being really aggressive at startup founders, and they're offering free subscriptions to Fusion 360. So go learn Fusion 360. It's free, and it's actually a really great tool. I wish I learned that one first. And the biggest product design advice I can give is either you need to be the customer or you need to have some really deep empathy for who your customer is. So really go interview them, look in their space. By the way, I didn't do any of that. I built it for me, but it turned out my biggest customer right now are teachers. I had no clue about anything with educators. And it just happened I designed something that works for them. But having really deep industry for your market is extremely, for your customers, is extremely important. But that's not physical product. That's any product, right? Yeah. All right. I'm told I'm done. I talked too much. Thank you, guys.